Welcome children for the next topics which we are going to revise, that is from force and pressure. In our first revision class we discussed about what is actually force and also contact force and non-contact force. Now we are going to discuss about what is actually frictional force. One question to you that you already know, what is friction? See, when we consider motion of an object, motion means changing the position of an object with the time. The quantity which influence or change the motion of an object changes. A quantity which changes motion of an object is called friction. A quantity which influence the motion of an object or change the motion of an object is the friction. Now, in our discussion, actually, when we consider a moving ball, suppose a ball is moving along or rolling along the ground. After some time, what happens to its motion? The ball comes to rest after some time. That means after some time the ball comes to rest. Why? Suppose a moving car. Suppose a moving car along a straight road. When we switch off the engine, what happens after some time? Even though if we are not going to apply the brake, what happens to it? That car comes to rest. We are actually not applying any force. Suppose when we pedaling a bicycle, after stop the pedaling, what happens to the bicycle? That also comes to rest. Here all the motion of the object changes by a force which is called friction. So friction is that force which changes the motion. It always acts. That means always acts in which direction? Always acts opposite to the direction of motion. That means in which direction that body is moving, in its opposite direction the force of friction is acting. And whenever there is a motion, this force of friction comes into play there or act there between the surface. So what is you want to remember about friction? The quantity which changes the motion of an object. Examples in such cases where the motion changes. A moving ball comes to rest after some time. A bicycle, when we stop pedaling, that will comes to rest after some time. When we off the engine of a car, without applying brake, that will come to rest after some time. Here all what happens changes the motion, and who or what changes the motion? It is the force of friction that changes the motion of the object. It actually comes into play between the surface or act on the surface of the moving body. So friction is a what? It is a contact force. What kind of force is friction? It is a contact force. Friction is a contact force. Now these are the things you should remember about the friction that we already discussed. Now some questions to you. What is actually friction? It is a force that changes the motion of an object. Why? The bicycle comes to rest after some time, stopping the pedaling of it. It is also due to friction. A car comes to rest when we switch off the engine. It is also due to friction. A boat that moves along the lake after stops the rowing, what happens? It also comes to rest due to friction. In which direction force of friction acts? In the direction of motion or in the opposite direction? It acts in the opposite direction. Where the force acts on the surface of the body which moves over the another surface. What kind of force is friction? That is a contact force. Now next we want to know about non-contact force. Among that, the first one is magnetic force. Actually, what is the magnetic force? We know in the case of a magnet, there are two poles, one north and another one south. If we brought near a magnetic north, another magnetic north is brought. When we brought near it, that will experience a force of repulsion. Without coming in contact, that can exert force. So that is a non-contact force. And if we place an iron nail, near the magnetic poles, or if we brought near an iron nail, a magnetic pole, if we brought, then what happened? That iron nail is attracted to it. So there exert a force without a contact between them. Such kind of force are called non-contact force. Magnetic force is an example of non-contact force. Non-contact force. Now another is electrostatic force. That means when we consider a charged body, that means in all the body there are two kinds of charges. Which one? There is positive and another one is a negative. But these two charges are equal. So when we consider the net charge on that body is 0. But when we rub certain body with some silk or wool, etc., that body acquires charge. If we brought a charged body or charged object near another charged object, then what happens? They may attract. Sometimes they repel also. Here also the force exerting between them actually without no contact. So this kind of charge, that means a charged body can attract or repel another charged body, and also a charged body can attract a body which is not having any charge, and the force they are exerting or act is what is non-contact force. What kind of force is there? Non-contact force is actually they are exerting. Now, one question to you: which are the two types of forces? One is contact force, another one is non-contact force. Now, give an example for non-contact force. First one we discuss about magnetic force. Another one is what is electrostatic force. Now, third one is gravitational force. This is also a non-contact force. It is always attractive. It is always attractive force. But in the case of magnetic force, it can be attractive or repulsive. Attraction or repulsion, that also we can consider as a push or pull. In the case of electrostatic force, that also can be attractive or repulsive. But in the case of gravitational force, it is always attractive. It is always what kind of force? Attractive force. We know when we drop an object, suppose if I drop this chalk, what happens to this chalk that falls? What is the reason why it is falling downward? It is due to the attraction of earth on this chalk. Or suppose a cockroach, if it lost its contact with the plant, then what happens to it? That cockroach falls down. If in the case of a mango, what happens if it lost or if it break from the tree, it fall down? These are all due to, or in the case of an apple. In these all cases, that fell to the earth or fall towards the earth, because the earth attracts everybody towards its center, and that force is called force of gravity or simply gravity. Earth attracts every object towards its and that force is called what is gravity, or it is force of gravity or gravitational force. Force of gravity or gravitational force, or simply we can say as gravity. But this gravitational force exerted by here earth, but not only earth, but every object in the universe, when we consider, attract every other object. That is, suppose a person in America and we consider another person in India. They are also attracting each other because they are in our universe. That means every object in the universe attract every other object with a force, and that is, or that force is called what is a universal gravitational force or simply gravitational force. That means every object in the universe attracts every other force, and that force is called the gravitational force. This gravitational force is also what kind of force? It is also a non-contact force. It is also a non-contact force. So, but one peculiarity or one speciality of it is that it is always attractive. One more speciality of it is that it is the weakest force that exists in the universe. That is, a gravitational force is a very small force. Now, one question to you: is the gravitational force is attractive or repulsive? Or it is always attractive, never it is repulsive. Now, we discuss about in our division what is actually friction. Friction is what is a force which changes motion of an object. It always acts opposite. It is a contact force. Then you should remember about non-contact force. That means object can exert force on another object without by physical contact between them. Examples for such forces are what is magnetic force, then electrostatic force, and gravitational force. Now we are going to discuss about now we are going to discuss about another term, what is actually pressure. What are the things you know about pressure? We already discussed about pressure. So, here we are going to discuss this term, that pressure. See, wind blows or cyclones occurs. These are all due to the difference in pressure. The causes of cyclones or hurricane or winds are all due to the difference in the pressure. Are all due to the difference in pressure. Then actually what is pressure? Can you remember what is actually pressure? See, suppose we are pushing a nail to a plant with its head and also with its tip, that means a sharp pen. Is it enter into the plank, wooden plank, when we push with its heads, or when we push it with its tip? Now again see, try to cut vegetables with the blunt edges of a knife and also with the sharp edges. In which case you feel it is more easy. Here two activities are: one, suppose you are trying to push a nail into the wooden plank with its head and then with its tip. try to cut vegetable with a knife with its blunt surface or blunt edge and also with a sharp edge. In which case you can find it is easy, or in which case you will feel it is more easy. Actually, you find it is easy by pushing with the tip to enter into the wooden plank. And also to cut with the sharp edge, it is easy. So, actually what is pressure? Pressure is the force acting on unit area. Force on unit area. See, pressure is equal to force by area. Here area is pressure is equal to force by area for a given area. That means when we consider pressure, the area is coming in the denominator, that is divided. That means suppose you are applying a force of 100 Newton. Suppose that force is 100 Newton and the area is suppose 50 unit. Then how much is the pressure there? It is only 2 Newton per meter square, or it is called Pascal. Newton per meter square is the unit of pressure. If suppose the same force is applied, suppose when we applied it head, suppose its area is 50 unit and the same 100 Newton we applied to the tip and its area it may be sometimes 10 unit only, then the pressure P is equal to 100 by 10, that is equal to 10. That means 100 by 10 is equal to 10 Newton per meter square. What is actually here we can observe? We are applying the same force in these two cases. But here area is 50 unit, here it is only 10 unit. So for a given force, when the area decreases, what happens? Here only 2 Newton, here it becomes 10, that means 5 times more. So from this we can get the idea that for a given force, if the area is lesser, pressure is more. For a given force, if area is less, pressure is more. So by pushing the head and tip, here the area is lesser, so pressure is more, so that goes into the wooden plank. In the case of when we cut vegetables with the blunt edges or blunt edge of the knife, area is more, so pressure is less, so it is difficult to cut. But when we cut with a sharp edge, area is lesser, so pressure is more, so it is easy to cut. That is the things you are remember. Another question to you. Why shoulder bags provided with the broad straps, not the thin strap? Once again, why shoulder bags provided with the broad straps, not the thin strap? Shoulder bag examples, your spoon bag. That is with the broad strap, not with the thin strap. What is the reason? Now you can explain or you can find its answer. What may be its answer? That means when the bag with a broad strap, but area is small. Their pressure is so less. Actually, in the case of a shoulder bag, force is the weight of the books. If the strap with the broader area, then area more, so pressure is less. So we cannot get pain in our shoulder. We cannot feel pain. But if the same book, that is force is same. If we use a thin strap, then the area is less. So pressure is more. So what we can get from that means pressure more means our shoulder will get pain. That is why we use a bag with what is a broad strap. Now, you want to remember, can liquid also exert pressure? Exert pressure. See, this activity we discussed. Take a long pipe, tie this end with a rubber balloon at this end, and pour this water up to this height. That is, suppose about 15 centimeter height. Then what happens? This balloon burns up to certain level. When we increase the height of water column, what happens? This balloon increase or bulges more. That means when the height of the water column, height of the when the height of the water column increases, the pressure exerted by it also increases. The pressure exerted by the liquid also increases. Then this shows water means it is a liquid, so liquid also can exert pressure. And if this water can exert pressure on its sides also, suppose take the tube and connect a side tube and here fit with a balloon, and when we pour this tube, in this tube when we fill water, what happens? The balloon fitted here that bulges. This shows water exerting pressure on the side of the container. Water exert pressure on the sides of the container. Another one is take an empty plastic bottle and make a hole on its sides at the same height. It is better. Then pour water. Then when we pour water, water flows through all these holes. This shows water or liquid also can exert pressure, and it exerts pressure on the container in its whole side. It exerts pressure on in its container in all the sides. That is shown by these activities. Now, another thing you want to remember, gases also can exert pressure. Gases also can exert pressure? Yes, gas also can exert pressure. You know what is the atmosphere? We know our earth is surrounded with a gaseous envelope. That is an envelope of air. Our earth is surrounded with a gaseous envelope, and that gaseous envelope is called atmosphere. Weight of this atmosphere, or this atmosphere can exert what? Pressure. And it is called what is the atmospheric pressure. The pressure exerted by the atmosphere is called atmospheric pressure. And it is very strong force. See, it is a very strong force, that is atmospheric pressure. It is very strong force. Suppose if we take a tube which 15 centimeter diameter, and the air in it, above this air in this tube can exert a weight of 220 kg weight. 220 kg weight. Now, some questions to you. Can liquid also exert pressure? Yes, it also can exert pressure. Does liquid exert pressure on the sides of the, or on the sides of the walls, or on the sides of the container? Yes, it can exert pressure on the sides of the container. Now another question, do gases also exert pressure? Yes, gases also can exert pressure. Next question, what is atmosphere? The gaseous envelope around the earth is called atmosphere, and the pressure exerted by atmosphere is called atmospheric pressure. Suppose if you fix a rubber sucker on a polished surface, then it is difficult to remove from it. Suppose you are fixing a rubber sucker on a polished wall, then it is very difficult to remove from it. What is the reason for it? When you fix the rubber sucker on the polished surface, when you fix most of the air from inside of it goes out. So inside pressure is very less. The outside atmosphere that exerts a great force, that means a great pressure, and that pressure keep the sucker fixed on the surface. That rubber sucker, how it is fixed on the surface? It is due to the atmospheric pressure. It is due to the atmospheric pressure that is or fixed on the wall. And how we can explain it means, when we fix the sucker on the surface, most of the air inside it goes out. So the inside pressure is much less than outside pressure. This difference in pressure, that is the atmospheric pressure, which keeps the sucker fixed on the surface. Now, we know what is atmosphere, atmospheric pressure. Then why we are not, that is, even though so very big force acting around us, then why we are not crushed due to this atmospheric pressure? Because inside our body pressure is the same as that of the atmospheric pressure. Our body pressure is equal to the atmospheric pressure. Because of that, we are not crushed. Before I told that we say height of, that is 15 into 15 size tube if we take and keep this tube in our head, the air pressure or it acts, how much it is? 250, 225 kilogram. That much pressure is acting on that surface. So we discussed about what are the things we discussed? We discussed about friction. Then friction is the force which opposes the or changes the motion. Then non-conductive forces such as magnetic force, electrostatic force, gravitational force. Then what is pressure? How pressure and area are related? For a given force, if the area is less, for a given force, if the area is lesser, pressure is more. This is applicable when we fix nail and also when we cut vegetables. In some other case, when the area is made more, then pressure is lesser. That is applicable in the case of shoulder bag with the rod strap. Then, liquid also can exert pressure? Yes, liquid also can exert pressure, and it exerts pressure on the walls of the container. Then, gas also can exert pressure? Yes, gas also can exert pressure. Then, what is atmosphere pressure? What is atmosphere? And how much strong is the atmosphere pressure? And these are all things you should remember. With these all, we can close the revision of